Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster on this beautiful Sunday morning. I always love to come into a sanctuary where there's lots of chatter because it means that folks are seeing friends old and new and talking to one another, and it's the congregation gathering on a Sunday morning. So welcome to church this morning. Our call to worship this morning are words by Marta Valentin. She says, "We pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within these walls that carries us through the week. We lift this community onto our shoulders with pride and grace-filled expectations for our children and our children's children. Let us worship together." Our opening song is in a gray hymnal. You'll find one somewhere near you. We're going to stand and sing number 298, "Wake Now My Senses." We'll do all 5 verses. Please rise as you are able, number 298.
Wake now my senses and hear the
richly done. Please remain standing for the lighting of our chalice. In Unitarian Universalism, the flaming chalice is our most central symbol. We light it at each of our services. We light it at weddings and at memorial services and at child dedications. For us, it is a flame of knowledge and truth. It is a beacon of hope and of peace, of justice and of love. This morning, we light our chalice with these words by Christine Robinson. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. Please be seated. I want to welcome you all to church this morning. We had a wonderful auction last night, and I'm always gratified as the minister to see a bunch of folks who were at the auction also in church the next morning. So, wonderful auction, and it was a really good time. I think we raised some money, and so thanks to all who put that on. And it's wonderful. Part of being a congregation is not just Sunday morning, it's the other opportunities to make friends and to have fun and to do things that are important in our lives. So when you sign on for a congregation, you sign on for the whole package. And last night was a very fun event. In fact, Kim will be downstairs following the service. If you haven't paid for your auction items yet, or if there's something still remaining that you'd like to take a look at. This congregation is one that is growing and thriving and always absorbing new people. We know that each and every Sunday morning when we gather for church, there are people among us who have never been in a Unitarian Universalist church before in their lives, and we welcome them in. We make space for them, we are interested in them, and we encourage them to take whatever steps they need to take on whatever spiritual path they are on. So whether you've been coming to this congregation and sitting in roughly the same place for decades, or it's your first Sunday with us, we are so glad that you are here, because together we create this congregation. Together we move it forward and we bring its values to the world. Welcome to church this morning.
Good morning. Please join me in the responsive reading. It's in the dark hymn book, Singing the Living Tradition, 551. I'll read the regular print, and please respond in the italics. Earth, teach me. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light.
As old stones suffer with memory.
Earth, teach me caring as parents who secure their young.
Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands all alone.
Earth, teach me limitation as in the ant which crawls on the ground.
Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky.
Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall.
Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring.
Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life.
Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep with rain.
For our second reading this morning, I have chosen a poem by Joyce Sutphen. The title is Living in the Body. Body is something you need in order to stay on this planet, and you only get one. And no matter which one you get, it will not be satisfactory. It will not be beautiful enough. It will not be fast enough. It will not keep on for days at a time. but it will pull you down into a sleepy swamp and demand apples and coffee and chocolate cake. Body is a thing you have to carry from one day to the next, always the same eyebrows over the same eyes, in the same skin when you look in the mirror, and the same creaky knee when you get up from the floor, and the same wrist under the watch band. The changes you can make are small and costly. Best to leave it as it is. The body is a thing you have to leave eventually. You know that because you have seen others do it, others who were once like you, living inside their pile of bones and flesh, smiling at you, loving you, leaning in the doorway, talking to you for hours, and then one day they are gone. No forwarding address. I invite you to settle in for the sermon. I am wedged in row 21, seat A, up against the window of the airplane. My 10 a.m. flight is finally leaving the ground at 12:36 p.m. I wait patiently for that little ding which says that you can use your approved electronic devices. I know I have 4.5 hours to remain calm, resist boredom, and get something done after my layover in Dallas. I'm planning to use the time productively, get some reading done or some emails answered. And I know all of the 100 or so other people on my flight are figuring out what they are going to do while we are all crammed into a very small space. In fact, we are all working together to make this extraordinary show of patience look like it's nothing unusual. But none of us is really happy about being stuck in close quarters for hours. Even the folks in first class who have it somewhat better are immobilized. None of us really want to wait that long to be free again. Of course, each of you could tell your own horror story about the time when you were stuck on the tarmac for hours and the airline attendants wouldn't let you out of your seat. We could have a game of one-upmanship as we remembered canceled flights and late arrivals and lost luggage. That might be fun, but I'm interested in something else this morning. I'm interested in asking the question, what do we do when we are faced with unavoidable waiting? What do we do when the pace of things is out of our control? What might we learn about ourselves when we have to wait? And where might God be found in the space that waiting creates? In an essay on the trials of air travel, Rodney Clapp says, standing in line, delayed in a terminal or on a long plane ride, those of us who are otherwise busy and hassled and have so little time are given time. That time, he says, can be filled only with patience, patience with those who wait with us, patience to pray inconspicuously but really, and to wait mindfully, living in the present even when it is inconvenient. Now, I don't have to tell you that most Americans are not good at waiting. We like speed and convenience. We insist on efficiency and timeliness. We want what we want, and we want it now. I'm sure that we have all seen people throw absolute tantrums when they had to wait. We've all had someone in line behind us grumbling about how they shouldn't have to put up with this crap. We've all been passed on the highway by an aggressive driver only to catch up to their car at the next red light. And the Americans who are the worst at waiting are those of us who have been blessed with a higher standard of living than the others. You know, the ones with nicer cars and the latest iPhone and full email inboxes. By contrast, those of us who are poor or working class are more used to waiting. If you are poor or unemployed in America, there are lines everywhere, in hospitals and clinics, in public assistance offices, at food banks, and at discount stores. But even when we become accustomed to waiting, we still don't really like it. No, Americans are not so keen on waiting, yet it is a fact of life. In fact, waiting may be the only part of life that reminds us daily that we are not in control. In the context of the larger world, having to wait shows us our plans are small and insignificant. This can be especially hard for we who are used to exerting control over our choices. Waiting can open space for frustration and worry, or it can open a space for patience and trust. One of the reasons I go back to Mexico over and over again is that the first and most persistent lesson Mexico has to teach you is you are not in control. And I love this about it. I love that the bus may or may not run to the town you are going to today. I love that a carefully made hotel reservation might evaporate into thin air, necessitating a 5-block walk with one's suitcase at midnight. I love that the shop, which always opens promptly at 9 a.m., is dark until 10:30 a.m. the day you need something from it. I love that the best little restaurants in the country never have a proper menu. You just go in and ask what they have today, knowing that it will be delicious. You are not in control. Mexico is. And this is where spiritual discipline comes in. When each of us actually realizes we are not in control, a sense of peace can start to ease the loss we feel. When we do what my fundamentalist Christian relatives call letting go and letting God, we can actually begin to enjoy life's bounty more. For me, one of the truest delights of being in Mexico is not knowing where the day will take me. When I leave the hotel in the morning, I do not know whether I will be back in 1 hour or 7. When I say hello to a friendly-looking person in the main square, I do not know if the interaction will end there or whether a long conversation will ensue, resulting in my being invited home for dinner and to meet the person's mother. You would be surprised how often this happens. When I stop to ask someone for directions to some out-of-the-way museum, I really don't know whether I will ever find it or not, or whether something else far more interesting will show up on the way. And when I return to the United States, I try to hold on to this Mexican lack of control for as long as I can, because I am more open to life and more open to other people when I do. To see waiting as a gift of time is to begin to grasp the spiritual nature of patience. Anyone can begrudgingly endure the waiting. Anyone can dutifully fill the time with some useful tasks. Anyone can playfully pretend the waiting is something else, like me pretending to be in my office when I'm actually on an airplane. But to see the waiting as a gift, that is something else entirely. That is something different. To acknowledge the gifts of not being in control, that is spiritually evolved. And it is something each of us can practice. Here's how it works. The next time you are in your dentist's office and she is overbooked and running late for your appointment, rather than being annoyed, you smile to yourself and settle into one of the waiting room chairs, and do not pick up the People magazine that is waiting for you there on the end table. You remember that you are not there to fill time. You are there to wait. With your best Buddhist smile on your face, you sit there and do absolutely nothing. You gaze at the bland artwork on the walls. You gently overhear the receptionist asking other patients to fill out forms. You notice the people around you, but you don't try to talk to them or figure them out. You resist the urge to create a shopping list in your mind or figure out what you're going to make for dinner. And for heaven's sakes, you do not look at your phone. You just sit there. You just wait. And slowly, ever so slowly, you might begin to enjoy yourself. In fact, you might be startled a little bit when the dentist calls you in. You might have forgotten that you were in her office in the first place. The waiting will have become a meditation. The paradox of a busy, accomplished life is that God is not in the busyness. God is in the waiting, in the emptiness between tasks. All those things we rush around completing every day, they might be important to our livelihoods, but they are not important to our inner lives. No quantity of appointments, meetings, and deadlines will ever add up to a spiritual life, I'm just sorry to say. No amount of time spent running children from soccer to ballet to band practice will result in a sense of sacred spaciousness for you or for them. No evening filled with television shows will create room in you for stillness and surrender. Only waiting will do this. And this is why we must see waiting as the gift that it is. This is why our chances of seeing God are much greater when we are stopped. God is in the patience we cultivate when we are not in control. As I look out the window of the airplane from 30,000 feet, the beauty of the scene below stops all of my theological musings. What an extraordinary sight. I notice the shapes of the clouds drifting between the airplane and the earth. It is a clear day above these clouds, and I can see hundreds of miles into the distance. The horizon has a faint pink hue, even though it is midday. As I look down, I know that I'm over one of the sparsely populated agricultural states, Arkansas or Tennessee or Kentucky, perhaps. I see the patchwork quilt of fields covering the ground, stitched with fence rows in a symmetrical pattern. Stripes show where plows have worked. Tiny farmhouses dot the corners of the field, looking like the properties on a Monopoly game board. Highways stretch out to the four corners of the earth. Here and there, a river meanders its way through the square blocks, reminding everyone that the earth had its own patterns before humans farmed it. Yes, we are still all sitting in tight quarters on this airplane. Yes, we still have 2 more hours to keep up this false intimacy. Yes, we are mostly quiet, doing what each of us does to get through a long flight. But I have just noticed that outside my window is ample evidence of why flying high over the earth on a spring afternoon can be a joy. Just outside my window is enough beauty and enough space and enough peace to make the waiting holy. Right here is my chance to have an angel's view of creation for the beauty of the earth. So I'm going to turn off this laptop computer for a while and just sit and stare out the window. Again, I have been given the gift of waiting. Again, it is up to me to make it matter. So be it. Amen.
As they make their way up, I just want to give you a moment to observe just how many musicians we have up on the chancel today. We made this observation earlier that during COVID time there was maybe eight choir folks. So this is where we've come, and this is really special. So I don't know. It's my thank you to you and you.
Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios tiene, nada le falta, nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta.
Nada
Thank you, choir, and thank you, bell ringers. It's a joy to have you. I'm not saying that because I joined them, it's just a joy to have them, okay? Okay, now this is the part of the service that the worship associate does not know what the minister is going to say, but is to reflect on the topic, patience. Remember, he is on a higher level than most of us, okay? Just keep that in mind, all right. And this doesn't count as my 5 minutes. I remember the late Reverend Howell would often tell us that the sermons he told us were just as much for him as they were for us. And I guess that's my reflection today. Because I don't have an abundance of patience. I was a school administrator for many years, and one of my jobs was being a middle school principal, was being a principal in an urban district. And I'm in this meeting with other principals from across the state, and I happen to be sitting with a group from Chester County, and they're complaining about their all-weather track. I'm in an urban district. I'm fighting for my supplies, for curriculum materials. And the more they talked, the more, here I go, impatient I became. There was a wonderful interdisciplinary unit the teachers, the parents, the kids had worked on, and we didn't have funding. So by the end of the day, I was pretty wound up. And my impatience stopped me from overthinking, and it did make me start doing something. And the next morning, I was in the district office. So my impatience at that particular moment did cause action. Now, is that okay? I know patience is a virtue, so does that mean impatience is a vice? I don't know. Because I also remember watching a TV commercial when I was a young woman, quite young, and this is before cell phones. And you see this elderly lady with a walker, and the phone across the room is ringing. Well, she's walking towards it as best she can. Now, she's moving as quickly as she can, but the phone is up to 4 rings. And just as she gets close, it's the 5th ring. And then it's the 6th ring. And she's reaching out, and she picks it up, and you hear, "Hi, Grandma, just wanted to see how you were doing." At that moment, I could have cried. In fact, I got teary-eyed. I remember that ad from decades ago. The Church of Latter-day Saints used to put ads on TV, and this was one of them. And I can remember my feelings. The patience that I heard in that young person was a special gift of grace. So now I'm reflecting, is patience grace in action? To be tender with the young, to be compassionate with the aged, sympathetic to the striving, and tolerant of the weak and the wrong, because sometime in your life you will have been all of these. So where does that leave me? Patience can be the grace of everyday life, but maybe impatience, if tempered with wisdom and self-awareness, could also be a virtue. You know what? I'm going to have to continue to pray for the wisdom to know the difference. At this time, we are going to take the morning offering. And each month, this gracious church picks a nonprofit organization that we wish to sponsor. And this month, I would like to invite forward Mr. Tony, let's see, I'm going to do it right, Mr. Tony, Krakamo. Oh, all right. He is a member of the board of Whiteface, a 401 nonprofit that provides free writing, songwriting, art, come on up, songwriting, and worship to veterans, their family members, and caregivers. Tony was a combat infantryman in the 101st Airborne in Vietnam from November 68 to November 69. He was awarded a Combat Infantry Badge, the Bronze Star, and the Purple Heart. He and Christine, his lovely wife of 54 years, have lived in Lancaster since 1983. And today he's going to tell us a little bit more about Right Face. So please welcome Tony.
Thank you, Luann and Reverend Dana. Appreciate being here. As Luann mentioned, Right Face provides creative writing, storytelling, and in conjunction with Music for Everyone, songwriting workshops. For veterans, the workshops are always free. They're for veterans, their family members, and caregivers. And since our founding by Scott Hauer and Annie Ginder back in 2014, we have served more than 250 veterans in Lancaster County. There are 35,000 veterans in Lancaster County. 17% of veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress. That means some 5,000 veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress in Lancaster County. We have served 250. One of the struggles we have as an organization is serving the people we want to serve because they tend to self-isolate. There is no place where sufferers from post-traumatic stress gather. There is no club. They're home. They're alone. They're on their phones. The gift of patience is denied them. They don't have that ability, and that's why they're home by themselves. Studies have shown that journaling and creative writing and art courses help mitigate post-traumatic stress symptoms and depression. And how do these workshops do that? Well, this is a very simplistic explanation, but post-traumatic stress syndromes, and you can have PTS even if you're not a veteran. Not all veterans have PTS, and PTS isn't limited to veterans. Anybody who's gone through a traumatic situation can suffer from that. But if you are in a hyper-vigilant environment, such as combat, for an extended period of time, you become highly reactive. You react immediately to motions, to sounds, to things you see out of the corner of your eye. And in a combat situation, that is a survival skill. But it doesn't serve you well when somebody cuts you off and takes your parking space when you're late for Sunday service. So being hypervigilant in the combat zone is a survival skill. Writing, doing an art project forces you to pause, to reflect. And those brain synapses that were rerouted because of the hypervigilant state you were in for a long time, when you're allowed to pause and reflect, those synapses rebuild themselves and you regain the ability to think before you act. You gain the ability to receive the gift of patience. All Right Face does is create an environment where veterans, family members, caregivers can pause, reflect on what they want to do and say and create. You can see and hear some of what's created because every Veterans Day, the Ware Center hosts a program, Veterans, Values, and Voices, consisting of songs, stories, and art our workshop attendees create each year. There are two things you can do for Right Face this morning and going forward. Yet donating, yes, money's always nice. And the workshops we give are free. The money you give us, the help you give us, allows us to help others. But the other thing you can do is if you are a veteran, if you know a veteran, even if they're not suffering from PTS, tell them about Right Face. Ask them to look up Right Face and come to one of our free workshops, because chances are they're going to know other veterans. And in that way, you can help us reach the some 5,000 veterans in Lancaster County who suffer from PTS. Today we have with us from Right Face the board president, Lisa Fairman. Where's Lisa? Honest, she's here. There she is. And Scott Hauer, founder, and Bob Wagner, who does our art program, and myself and my lovely wife, Christine, sitting over there. So you can contact Scott Hauer at rightfacescott@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to answer questions you may have for us during the coffee hour. Thank you very much.
The offering will be received at this time. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Alan, for the beautiful music. We come to a thoughtful, prayerful time in our service, a time in which if you have come to this sanctuary this morning with a joy on your heart, we encourage you to come up the center aisle and to press that joy into a stone or a tile and leave it in the sand up here, knowing that we all need as much joy as we can get in this life. Likewise, if you have come to church with something heavy on your heart, I invite you to do likewise. Come up the center aisle and press that sorrow into a stone or a tile, knowing that mixed with the joys, it will paint a picture of who we are as human beings, because joy and woe are always woven fine. Please come forward with your joys and sorrows. For our prayer this day, I'm going to invite us to do exactly what we've been talking about, which is be patient for just a couple of minutes. In this life where we tumble from one thing to the next, sometimes it's hard to slow ourselves down enough and to give ourselves permission to just be silent and to be quiet. So what I'm going to have us do is have all of us place our feet nice and squarely on the floor, gently put down anything you've been holding or let it sit in your lap. If you're comfortable, close your eyes or just gaze gently ahead. I'm going to time 3 minutes of silence. Now, to some of us, this will seem like an eternity. And to some of us, we will have just only barely gotten started on the peace and the inner silence that we need. I'll time it, so don't worry. I'll bring us out of it at 3 minutes precisely, and we'll see how it feels to be in silence and to be patient for 3 minutes. I invite you to join one another in this silence. Amen. We're in our pledge campaign right now, and I'd like to invite Jessica Platzer to come forward and offer a pledge testimonial. Come on up.
My journey to UUCL began several years ago when I moved to Lancaster for work. Meeting people as an adult is a far different experience than when we as small children connect in schools or playgrounds. I was not raised in the Christian faith, but I knew that churches can provide the community I craved, and so I sought out a liberal congregation, and my search led me here. The welcome that I received was warm, and somehow the sermons resonated in a way I hadn't predicted, and all of a sudden I realized I didn't have to pretend to like the church in order to access the community. I had genuinely found a spiritual home. Who knew? You knew. UUCL offers more than I can take advantage of right now. From smaller group studies and other intellectual pursuits, to creative outlets, to greater community outreach. It's pretty much guaranteed that right now somebody here is thinking of something that will make this world a better place. This is why I've pledged as a non-member in the past, and why I'm pledging again as a joining member this year. If you have not pledged yet, there are volunteers that will be circulating at coffee hour today. You can get a pledge card from them and make your pledge, and they can keep your pledge anonymous if that's something that's important to you. It's just important that we all pledge today or in the soon future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. It's always great to have new members doing the testimonials. I invite you to turn in the front of your gray hymnal and we'll say together the affirmation of faith. We'll say it first in English and then in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. As we begin to close our service, I would like to invite all of you to come downstairs for coffee. You can reach Emerson Hall by the stairs that are just outside here, or there's an elevator that goes down there as well. There's always lots of things that are happening at coffee hour. Today is the last chance to sign up for Feed Our Starving Children, and Carol Rapici will be down there and can tell you more about that and sign you up for that. Kim Chappell will be down there in case you want to see what auction items are left or need to pay for the ones that you bid on last night. And just want to remind you to always take a look at the announcements that are printed in the order of service. Rich in the office goes to great length each week to make sure that the information is up to date. Likewise, if you have an event that's coming up, please get him the information, and he will include it sometimes, 5 or 6 weeks before the event is going to happen. So use that space in the order of service to get your things announced. The last thing to mention is that next week we're trying to start something called the Fourth Sunday Potluck. It's going to be a potluck brunch, which means you all get to bring the food. So just bring brunchy food with you to church next week. Do not worry if there are 8 packs of cinnamon rolls. Who doesn't like cinnamon rolls, right? So think about what you like to eat for brunch, what you can prepare on a Sunday morning, bring it with you. The board is sponsoring this first one. We'll all go down after church. It'll kind of be like a glorified coffee hour. We'll have tables set up. You can get coffee and tea and whatever else and take part in all the food that's brought. If you forget, don't worry. Please stay. Eat what other people have brought. That's what a potluck is all about. And then after that, there will be a town hall after that potluck brunch next week. So do try to attend both of those. On the 29th. Oh, I'm sorry, the 29th, not next week, the 29th. The brunch in there. Brunch is the 4th, we have 5 Sundays in March, which is the problem. So the brunch is the 4th Sunday, and the town hall is the 5th Sunday. All right, I'm sure that's as clear as mud. Let's sing again. Eli's going to help us with our closing song.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. For those that's new, repeat after me. Friends who know this song, help them. Ready? I know this rose will open. Repeat. I know this rose will open. My turn. I know my fear will burn away. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. Now we're going to split it up into 4 parts. Ready? I know this rose will open. I know my soul will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will, for real this time. I know this rose. 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 I know my soul. I know my faith. I know this rose. 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 I know my soul. I know my soul. I know this rose. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
Go out into this beautiful, hurting world and be patient with it. Be patient with yourself, be patient with those around you, and know that this patience can help heal the world. Go in peace and go in love. Amen.